an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Killing Eve, Season 1, Episode 3. Don't I know you? In this episode, so Villanelle has gone completely off book here, and she promised she wouldn't be naughty, and spoiler, she's naughty, and it's terrible. It's terrible. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha. Thank you very, very much to Julia for commissioning this episode. I want to make a special plea because I know that there are a lot of people out there who want to support the show and they'll just buy episodes of whatever, not really like with a personal interest in what I'm covering, but just to be supportive. And I want to put out a plea for some folks to continue commissioning because I am really loving this show, and I only have 2 more episodes, which are, the next one is on the 20th of this month, and then there's one for the 10th of January. And those weren't even commissioned for this show. They were commissioned for something that Melanie decided to cancel, and she let me use those slots for whatever I wanted. So that is it. The 20th of January is the last commission, and I think February is almost booked out completely by this point. And if there's too much time between, I have to close this one. And I don't want to do that, but I also, have to be sort of consistent with my rules. So yeah, if anybody out there has been like, I haven't done a Spoil Me in a while, and you can throw in for 1 episode, please commission this show. Okay. So thank you, Julia, because I really did think for some reason that I was, that the next Killing Eve episode was my commission that I had done via Melanie. And I was really excited to see that there was another one a little bit newer. Anya says in the chat, I don't even have money to buy Veronica Mars episodes. Oh, well, if you don't have the money, that's fine. I totally understand that. I'm just saying if you do, cause I know that there are a lot of shows that are really consistently booked. I mean, of course, the top one in terms of always there is an episode practically every week is The Magicians. But that show will be wrapping soon, I think. Rome is canceled. Yes, Rome has been canceled. 3 straight months, no bookings, I'm afraid. So it's a shame because I actually really enjoyed that, but also I get to binge it myself now. So, silver linings. All right, so I'm going to talk about this show because it's great and I only have so much time. Guys, oh my God, we have a fucking main character. Would you call him a main character or at least major character death? And it is, and I know I'm starting ahead of I'm getting ahead of myself, but this is probably one of the tensest chase scenes I have ever watched, foot chase. There are a lot of, spectacular chase scenes, and going into a nightclub for a chase scene is really common. It's one of those tropes. And for a moment when they were going into a nightclub, there was a part of me that was like, are we really doing this? I guess. And then when I realized what exactly she planned to do, I had a bit of a heart attack. I think this was filmed so well. The music was handled so well. Everything about the way this moment was presented to us as viewers dialed up the tension of all of it by about 100. And I could easily see a similar scene to this being done by a different director with different actors maybe and not working at all. But damn, did it work this time around. So we open the episode with the slow discussion, and by discussion I mean she's having a monologue moment when in fact she's supposed to be involving somebody else in her thoughts and feelings. But Eve is over here talking about what Villanelle looks like. She doesn't have a name for her, and I would love to know what she calls her in her head. But yeah, it's great. I love this moment so much because she is trying so hard to just be like, oh yeah, you know, like this is the vibe I get from her. This is what she sort of looked like, and also the impression she gave me. And it's a long neck, delicate features, high cheekbones, cat-like eyes. And it's amazing because, like, we know that's dead on accurate. Like, Villanelle is gorgeous. She's stupid hot. So when you hear her talking like this, it really does sound like she's just like, oh yeah, I met a fairy queen. But we know, because we have actually seen this person, that she's not like exaggerating at all, which is amazing. And the look that Bob gives her when she sort of turns to him, as he's just kind of like, oh, really? It's like that? Is the funniest thing. Like, he knows. And we wind up getting a lot of backstory on him. And it's not even exactly, like, I feel like backstory is kind of, it's often used to mean that we go take flashbacks and we have like a look at things that are relevant directly to the plot. And that's not what's going on here. It's more that we get a look at who he is. And again, this is the sort of thing that I think is easy to fuck up. I always, my go-to show when I'm trying to talk about, and I called him Bob, didn't I? It's Bill. My go-to show when I'm trying to talk about doing things badly, especially tropes, is The Walking Dead. And that, like, Bill in this episode does a bit of a background dump. Like, this is where I grew up. This is who I met and married, you know, the whole thing. And in a lesser show, if this weren't done in such a natural way, it would have set off a lot of alarm bells for me, because this is something that TV shows and books, but TV shows, it's more noticeable somehow, tend to do, where they will humanize somebody before they kill them off, trying to make you care about them more than you probably did. And the reason I bring up Walking Dead is that they would really do this. Their cast was so big that they would have somebody who we had barely spent any time with and was maybe even a little annoying. And we would suddenly like get to hear all about them as a person. And you would know right away, oh, this person's dying by the end of this episode, because we've never given a shit about them before. But with Bill, the moments that we spend with him are moments that we spend with Eve, and they're not unnatural and they don't feel shoehorned in. And it's just the two of them being on this mission together and caring about each other. And it's honestly really, really sweet. Like, their relationship feels so real and fleshed out. And I love the fact that there's like a freedom between the two of them. Where they'll discuss sexual tension between them. They'll discuss their own sexual backgrounds with each other. And there's no feel there that this is like foreplay or flirting or anything like that. It's just them getting to know one another. And because it was just done in such a real way, and it felt like the show was like, we want you to know who he is. It's not like we want to make you feel bad when he dies. It wasn't a manipulation. It was, no, Bill's interesting and a cool guy, and we kind of just want you to know that before something happens to him. Really, really excellent work. So the opening of this, after her description of Villanelle, cuts to Belfast, I believe she's in. And there is this dude, Berlin, my bad. And there is this dude walking along with his cell phone, businessman of some kind, and he is heading into this appointment. And what's so interesting about the way that they play all of this is they have this dude with his fetish, but then we have this moment with Villanelle later where she's got her weird fetish with Eve. And the show is really being like, I think they're kind of presenting us with a very dramatic and kind of, what's the word, dangerous fetish. This guy has to sign release forms. And they're kind of like, yeah, that's a little crazy, right? But also, we all have our thing. And then we get to see Villanelle doing her bizarre role play situation. So, Kai booked another episode for February. Thank you, Kai. Yay! February 28th. Whoo, got in right under the wire. I love it. So, this, because I feel like there's a real tendency with popular culture. We love to be like, you know, that we love to kind of section men into a, they tend to be more perverse kind of thing, and have the men be on the receiving end of treatment that often has to do with domination. That is put out there a whole lot, and often is done specifically with like characters who have a very professional veneer in other parts of the show in order to be extra shocking to us. So when it turned out to be that they were doing this, I kind of for a moment was a bit like, oh, I guess. But then I liked that they really took it to another place by having this be sort of a foundation for Villanelle's weird fetish later on. So yeah, this guy is going into what it turns out that, like, because it looks at first like it's a doctor's office. And he's like about to buzz himself in, and there's some guy coming out adjusting his clothing, and a sort of shady look passes between the two of them. And immediately you're like, oh, what's going on here? Because that is a dude who looks like he just got done fucking and has like a bit of a shame cloud around him. Now I'm going to read you what this nurse, in quotes, says to him at the counter. All procedures are at the client's own risk. Oh, she's yeah, here it is. Because it is alarming. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Hot Medica provides bespoke hospital services for recreational purposes only, and is not liable for damages for any of the following: infection, blood loss, accidental mutilation, or death. All procedures are at client's own risk. So, what this is men who, and I say men, I'm sure that they cater to women as well. It just seems like all of the clientele in this episode are men. So I'll say people who have a fetish for having minor surgical procedures along with like a sexual gratification. And it's like a massage and a happy ending, except like a tooth extraction and a happy ending, I guess. I am somebody who knows a lot about a variety of fetishes just because I find that sort of aspect of human psychology really fascinating. And I didn't even know that this specifically was a thing. I know about like getting cut or some kind of like physical harm being done being a particular type of fetish. But I didn't think about combining that with a medical setting and like a veneer of it being for a particular like purpose. And it makes total sense that those things would go together. But for me, a minor medical procedure like that's the kind of beginning of a horror movie for me. That's something that gives me the shivers. He walks into this room, and even if we didn't know who Villanelle is and know that she's fucking not the person that you want having a bone saw in her hand, even if I didn't know that, getting up on this table, this looks like the beginning of a torture porn to me. And that's pretty much what it turns into. It incredibly upsetting, you guys. Like, it was really hard to watch. So it turns out that it's his birthday, and he's expecting to be given something special and different. And there's this regular woman who he normally comes to see, and she's not there today. And we find out later that she had been drugged. I'm not even sure if she's dead or if she was just drugged. Either way, Villanelle steps in and is taking pains to send a message via this guy. So apparently her name that she used when she, I guess, I'm about to say got employment, but when she subbed in, she used Eve's name. And y'all, I cannot imagine what it must feel like if you are on the tail of somebody who's a serial killer whom you have yourself said probably has a psychopathic streak. What it must be like to find out that they know your name. This isn't even just, I am aware there are people trying to find me. This is, I know you, and I could look you up, and I could find your home address, and I could do, that moment where they tell Eve that Villanelle used her name. Boy, that was like a kick in the fucking stomach. That was brutal. I never expected for the confrontation between her and Villanelle to be ratcheted up this way. I just didn't think it was going to be happening this quickly and this soon. It's so sudden, and it makes sense because Villanelle is she already had a moment with Eve in the bathroom. So even if she weren't, even if it were just about, I'm being investigated by this person, I think she'd still be extremely interested. But combine that with what Eve looked like, and it's a perfect stew of just this fascination and obsession. I am really, really interested. I'm loving this. So yeah, this dude winds up getting his balls clamped, which is something apparently that he likes having done anyway, but she does it harder than he likes, apparently, to probably like try and actually take them off. And he is screaming the safe word, and she puts this nozzle over his mouth, this one of those air masks, and begins to feed him what do you call it? Carbon monoxide. Begins to kill him with it. And as he's dying, she like grabs his face and tells him to look at her. And it is a really like, and I said before with the first guy that she killed, the first guy, I shouldn't say that she killed, but I think it's the first murder that we saw her commit, which is the hairpin. That moment where she kills that guy, she is watching him die with this incredible delight and almost a feeling of like sexual arousal from it, right? And when she kills, I rewatched the second episode before this one last night because it had been a while. When she kills the man at the beginning of the second episode in the office building, she's watching him with the same like eagerness, but it seems as if she doesn't really get the satisfaction of the death, that moment of death with the shooting, the way that she does with something like this. It's like, it needs to be there has to be like a physical contact, and there has to be a real like proximity, but that's too simple. There has to be an intimacy to it. Does that make sense? So if she isn't right up watching you die, it's not as good for her. She doesn't enjoy it as much. So shooting this dude, like, yeah, she killed him. She got to watch him die, but it just wasn't really the same. It wasn't like what she goes for. And, ooh, man, is that the creepiest, you know? Kai says, I honestly thought she'd just cut him up and watch him bleed to death. I'm kind of glad it's not that gruesome. Yeah, I mean, again, you walk in and she's got a fucking bone saw. I had a tiny bit of a panic attack. I have a really hard time watching that kind of thing. Slasher movies are no big deal because they're almost comedic, and it's usually like a big, giant, like bombastic death, and then we move on. But when it's like something where you're watching intimate moments of a person being hurt, that is really, really tough, and I can't do it. So I was just like, are we going to have to? And I have no doubt that, like, we're going to get to some scenes like that, I'm sure. That's got to be out, because Villanelle feels like somebody who isn't satisfied with what she's doing and needs, like, more of a thrill. And she's going to have to start doing more and more extreme shit, it feels like. That's what happens when you have a fetish. And it's clear that, like, killing dudes in this method is kind of a fetish for her, or killing people with these intimate methods. But yeah, okay. So we go to London, and it turns out that, Eve and her husband, what is his name? Nico? They have a chicken that is laying eggs, and they're like having a bit of a weird conversation about whether or not the egg this chicken laid is safe to eat, and whether or not what she is doing for her new job is safe. And they keep getting like overlapped. So she's like saying, oh yeah, no, it's perfectly safe as long as we cook it to such and such. And her husband's like, no, safe. Like, is it safe? The job. Fuck. Now, there is something going on, obviously, with Nico. And I theorized last episode, I think, that I feel like there's a leak somewhere, because, you know, this is supposed to be a really secret group of people, and Villanelle already knows. So I don't feel like it makes sense that Nico could be the leak, because this guy is like, he has been with Eve when she was part of just the FBI, or not the FBI, MI5, is that right? So it seems a little bit outlandish to think that he's been a mole for this long, you know, just waiting on the potential that there's like information that he's getting from her that's useful. And if he were any kind of mole, I have to think he'd be better at it than this. So what I think is that there is just something relationship-y going on. But throughout this episode, Nico seems extremely unhappy with Eve. And it makes a lot of sense as a partner to watch this reaction like play out, because Eve is doing something dangerous isn't even the word. And she is jumping into it with this sort of lack of thought for what's going on with Nico. Anytime that she even thinks about how this will affect him, it's not even about, I need to talk to him about this. It's, he's not going to like this, so I guess I'll pack and leave for Berlin while he's like at work, you know, like, I don't know if she was going to leave without saying anything to him, but I kind of feel like she was a little bit. And it's obvious to anybody watching this that while her and Nico might like each other, he doesn't matter to her the way that he should if they are going to have this kind of a serious relationship. How he feels about everything, keeping him abreast of what's going on, and being honest with him about it. Those are all like bare minimum requirements for a healthy relationship, and they don't have this. And Nico has a couple of moments of like watching her and kissing her before he like leaves, when she says that she's leaving for Berlin. And we find out later that there had been like a party at their house that they had like planned to host with friends that she completely forgot about. And Nico doesn't remind her because he tells her, I didn't want it to stress you out, which I could take at face value and be like, I get that. She has to go to work. There's nothing to be done to change that. So guilting her about missing this party isn't really going to accomplish very much. But on the other hand, I almost wonder if this isn't a masterstroke by him, because letting her know that you like, didn't even bring it up, and because she should have known, is its own kind of manipulation, you know? And it's not like he hid the fact that he wasn't thrilled with the way that she was handling all of this already. So I'm really, really curious what's going to happen with Nico, because it seems like she's got a person here who is like, I'm not clear on what he does for a living. I feel like we've talked about this before, but it seems like he's like the homemaker a little bit more than she is. You know, he's the guy who cooks. He's the guy who like, handles plants and animals and just makes the place more of a home. And she, it seems, has like gotten comfortable with this arrangement and is sort of taking it for granted at this point. I think this is going to come to a head sooner rather than later, now that one of her team has been taken out, because I don't know, like, either she just straight up lies to Nico about this, and I don't see how she manages to lie and pull that off, or she tells him and he realizes that what she tried to play off as being not a big deal is indeed the exact opposite of that. And he is going to start to have a problem with this new job of hers, which, holy shit, I would. Like, I know it's a cliche to have like, oh, somebody who's investigating a serial killer and their partner doesn't like it. But Jesus Christ, there are a lot of jobs out there who are less risky than this that I would still not like. And this just, I mean, I would tell him to quit immediately if Owen was like doing something like this and one of his partners was taken out. I mean, forget it. There would be absolutely no conversation to be had about it. None. I would just be like, no, if either you quit this job or I'm leaving now to save myself the heartbreak of watching you get fucking murdered. So anyway, that whole thing with Nico, and they're talking about this egg. Guys, I don't know if you know this, but she says something about like, did she shit it out? Eggs come out of the same orifice on a chicken that they poop from. So indeed, if an egg comes out and looks like it's covered in shit, it's because it is. And they have to be, their shells have to be cleaned before you can eat them. So they should be soaking the egg in like a light drop of bleach in water. So yeah, and she keeps on trying to emphasize to Nico how like, oh, this job is such a pain in the ass. I don't even want to do this. And it's not fooling him at all. He knows her and he knows that she fucking lives for this. This is exactly what she wanted. This is the kind of job that she has been pining for. And I think that's a big part of why he is choosing not to say anything, because he doesn't want to shit on something that she's been like aching for. And not only does she really want to be doing this, but like she was recently fired. So it's not like she's got so many options either. You know, it's just, there are times where you're just like, okay, this isn't ideal. I don't love this, but we kind of have to be happy that you have employment right now and just be like good with that. So yeah, we have like this, first step towards getting to know who Bill is in the next scene where he shows up and he's got a baby in tow, which is a lovely little like humanizing moment, and also lets us know that he takes parenting seriously, because like, my God, how many TV shows have women turning up at the office with their kid because they couldn't get the sitter? And how many times has it been the father that has had to do that? Almost never. It's usually a woman. And if it's a father, it's especially played for laughs a lot of the time because he just doesn't know what he's doing. Right. But Bill, it feels like kind of a matter of course, like, well, you know, I got this baby. And knowing that he has this child that he's been raising makes it extra awful that something happens to him. It would have been terrible anyway, just for Eve's sake. But he wanted to have a child, and we wind up finding out later that he has like this partnership with a woman that Eve thought they had this like perfect, traditional man, woman, child marriage and family situation. But it turns out that he's basically like pansexual. He just wanted a kid. This woman and him get along really well. She just was like, yeah, I'll have a kid. That seems cool. And also is dating people on her end of things. And they're not really like, they have sex occasionally, but that's not really like the nature of their relationship. And Eve is just fascinated by this and really surprised because she really kind of thought she knew the shape of things there. And it's fun, I think, to find out that somebody who seems so sort of like easy to read, the moment you meet Bill, you assume that he's just one of those guys, you know? The idea that he had a baby never occurred to me. If he had kids, I would have assumed that they were in like seniors in high school or even in college. And I would have assumed that he would be very like conservative, especially sexually, but just socially in general. And it turns out I was like wrong on every count, which is lovely. So this is where she finds out that her name was given. And, you know, she has it like smash cuts from her being like, oh, to then her outside with her boss. What is her boss's name again? Is that Carolyn? Carolyn has a great line here of just, do you smoke? I don't smoke either. Now would be a good time. It's too bad. But Eve says something like, please don't pull me off this case or off this team, actually. And Carolyn's like, first of all, this team doesn't officially exist, so I can't pull you off anything. Second of all, it's up to you. Your actions are your actions. I'm not going to tell you what to do. And I feel like really it's a bit, it's selfish of her, but also very smart because she knows, like, first of all, Eve is good at her job. She already had put together a file of most of the cases that you were already following because you had an inkling about this woman. So you know that Eve can tell what's Villanelle's work and what's not. Second of all, if Villanelle has taken a personal interest in Eve, it's better for the team in some ways that you keep Eve there because that will keep Villanelle engaged, which leads to an increased likelihood of her fucking up. So yeah, like, as much as I don't want to be cynical about it, you kind of need to keep her around. And it's almost naive of Eve there. Naive of Eve. It's almost naive of her to be like, oh my God, this is going to make her want to take me off the case. Like, the opposite, girl. This is a person who has already figured out who you are and is letting you know. They're starting a game. You don't just end the game if you're trying to catch somebody. You try and play it and win. That's what you do. So she has to then, like, pretend to her husband that they're going to Berlin just for, like, the sake of it, but not because they are reacting to an emergency situation. And that's the first step in her not being honest with him about what's going on here. And it's rough. And there's a moment where Bill is, like, playing with his baby girl and saying, I'm going to die. Daddy's going to die, isn't he? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And guys, I hate so much now seeing that moment and knowing that's exactly what the fuck happens. Because he's like, I'm joking. And I'm like, oh my God. It's so heartbreaking. So then we have the scene with Villanelle and this woman that she picked up. This woman is apparently a tourist whose husband is, like, back in the hotel room and does not know what his wife is up to. And she has run off with Villanelle, and I am concerned for this lady. By the end of the episode, she is still alive. And I'm very, very worried that that's going to change next episode. I don't know how long she's going to be around for, but I was surprised that she came back at all. I thought this was going to be this one scene. Villanelle would kill her. We'd hear about the death later, and nobody would really understand the relevance because this woman was a nobody. But instead, we have this scene abruptly end, and then we have Villanelle with her handler later, and this woman shows up again, which I just didn't expect her to make it out alive, frankly. And I'm not sure how long that's going to happen for. But yeah, so she has this like little role-playing thing where this woman stays dressed and has her hair down the same way, and Villanelle wants to call her Eve, and this woman, bless her, she's totally down to do role-playing, but she doesn't understand what's happening here, which why would you? And it's like, well, do you want me to call you Adam? And Villanelle's like, no, that's not it at all, sweetie. Just do what I'm telling you and don't ask questions. And yeah, she like apparently does it and seems to be having a good time because she comes back a little bit later. And I love the whole vibe of this lady because it seems really clear that she is like, she's super nervous because it doesn't seem like she's ever been with a woman before. And also Villanelle is so gorgeous and, you know, probably a good like 10 years, 15 years younger than this lady. So I think that there has to be some sort of like flag waving in her head going like, you pulled somebody who's a little out of your league, lady. You better like not fuck this up. But yeah, I loved the scene and I felt so bad because this lady seems like really trying to let herself do something that she's been wanting and like has not allowed herself to explore. And I just didn't want her to get hurt. You know, I really didn't. Which really says something, again, that the show can make you care about characters so quickly. That's just an impressive thing to do. So at this point, Villanelle is like making out with her, and then she stops and she says, now I am going to hide and you are going to find me. And she runs off and leaves this woman standing there like, what? And that's the end of the scene. And I really thought, this is it. She's gonna be killed. Like, that's what's happening here. Ugh. Nope. Not that simple. So we have, Bob or Bill. I keep wanting to call him Bob. Did I do that last episode? I feel like I did. Bill and Eve in Berlin, and they're talking about the dude who was killed, who was a Chinese leader. And apparently they are like trying to low-key bury what happened because, you know, the fact that he is a fetishist is not a good look for them. And the fact that somebody was able to get to him and kill him this easily also looks bad for them unless they were the ones that ordered it to happen, and they did not. And it seems people are kind of aware that they did not. So it's a lot of like hoops that they have to jump through after seeing the body of this guy before they can actually talk to somebody who has the details on what went on with the body, because they go to the morgue and this dude is basically like, all right, so here's what happened. But, there's like no access to the official file. And it turns out that there's like, an attaché, I guess, that, is that the word that we want? The man that they wind up dealing with, like, what is his particular title? Yeah, attaché. It is an attaché. Okay, cool. I can't believe I remembered that. What a weird, but yeah, he is supposed to be the one that's sort of like spearheading the cover up of this actual story. And he meets with Eve and Bill and essentially is just like, why don't you meet me for dinner and fuck me? And then maybe I'll tell you what you want to know. And I thought it, like, I gotta admit, you guys, I'm jumping ahead because there's a moment here where Eve is like trying to email the attaché, or she's using his email to track down where he's located. And Bill is supposed to be looking after her suitcase. And she looks up and the suitcase is gone. And of course, that's because Villanelle stole it. They don't know it's Villanelle. They think it was just stolen because they have no idea just how on top of things Villanelle is. She, like, from the moment this is all going on, she is fucking following every move that Eve makes. I mean, it's a little creepy. you know, she's got Eve's laptop, I think, later on. And because of that, she's able to dial right in on the conversations that Eve is having with Nico. Like that scene with her just like, I think she's just like painting her nails or something while listening. The casualness of that invasion is really like upsetting. I don't know how she figured out the password or whatever, but you know, there it is. So yeah, this moment where she turns around and she realizes that her suitcase is indeed gone. And she's just like, Bill, seriously? Like, that was your one job. Are you really doing this? And there's also a closeness between Bill and the coroner that they speak to. And it makes sense once you hear about Bill's history out here. But yeah, so Kenny's finding gin for us. And as for you, Charlottenburg, and they're like about to go and walk away, and she realizes it's gone. And we cut to Villanelle, who is looking through Eve's stuff, trying on her scarves, generally just sort of like weirdly like play acting that she is Eve. And at this point, Villanelle's handler comes in. Is he Constantine? I feel like I called him Nico last time a bunch of times and I was like totally off. But he is not fucking... Oh, sorry guys. Kai just said, sorry I was cooking so I might have missed this, but if you don't think Nico is the weakling, then who do you think it may be if they exist at all? I mean, the only other person that I could really think... I mean, there's Carolyn, but the fact that they didn't know about this like operation until Eve was brought in makes me think that it has to be her other friend, because she brought in what, Bill, and what was the other girl, Elena. It could be Elena. Like, it's just kind of, it comes down to just the reason that I suspected Nico was, I don't feel like Elena, her profile doesn't match. It doesn't feel like she's a particularly ambitious person. I feel like if she were working for MI5, then if she had connections outside of the country, then that would have come up. And she just seems like somebody who got pulled into this without any sort of signaling that she would be involved on this case beforehand. Like, it was a total surprise when she was brought in on it. So that's part of the thing, is that it's such a series of coincidences that leads everybody who's connected to Eve into this group, that it's really like none of them feel right to me. But I don't know who it could be. It could be just somebody who works in that building, for all I know, you know, because they share the building with other people. But yeah, so I don't know. But yeah, Constantine is like really irritated because he didn't want Villanelle to come here and just have a holiday, basically. There's some amazing dialogue between the two of them, and he explains to her about how Eve Pilastri, she is here in town, and I need you to watch her. Villanelle plays this so well. Like, she's so shocked. Like, that's not whose fucking suitcase she's looking through right now. And he tells her, I want you to watch her. Please don't do anything naughty. And he's in the middle of saying this to her when this other woman comes back and thinks that this is part of the role play. I love this so much. This woman is just like sizing him up a little bit. Like, and you know, he's not an unattractive guy, especially for his age. So I could see her just being like, oh, you know what? I could get down with this actually. But he winds up getting in Eve's face and being like, don't do anything, just watch her. And he's so intense. And I love how Villanelle plays the like reprimand. Like, she is playing at role playing. It's amazing, the whole thing. And this woman is like, wow, he was really good at that. So then we have this like awesome sequence of events because the attaché wants to take Eve to dinner. And like, I really thought that she was going to have to sleep with him. And I was like, are we doing this? I don't want to do this. And he winds up folding so easily when he gives her this information that I suspect the info that he gave her. I don't really know what it's about. Like, I don't know enough about politics and the way that like different countries would handle things to understand exactly what China's attitude would be on this, because it feels like China is a power to be afraid of, that would know if he were giving away information that he shouldn't. So is it possible that China is agreeing off the record to share this information with Eve? Because otherwise I was just like, he just hands over like a thumb drive full of info with no sort of, you know, he's annoying. He's trying Eve's patience at dinner, but he doesn't make her jump through the hoops that I expected. And the biggest hoop being having actual sex before he gives her this stuff. So I feel like this was all a formality and he was about to either hand this information over anyway, or this was all a formality because he's fucking with her and that information that he just gave her isn't even going to be correct. I don't know. But yeah, I just like this whole scene did not go the way I expected. And she has a session shopping by herself a little earlier because she is supposed to be dressed up for this dinner date. And her fucking suitcase got stolen, which she does not tell her husband, by the way. She just tells him, I didn't have the right clothes for tonight. But she doesn't tell him that the suitcase was stolen, which he had said something right before she left about not losing the suitcase. So yeah, it feels like this is a bit of a pattern. And she's trying on this dress and she's like on the phone at the moment that she's trying it on. With Elena, and she's saying, you know when an outfit is missing something and you just don't know what it is. And she's trying on this really cute, like dark teal, deep V-neck dress. And later on, there's a discussion about whether you wear a bra with a dress like this. I feel like you could. And in some ways, if you wear a statement bra, when you can see it, that is in itself its own sort of look. But, you know, we have Bill telling her that she definitely shouldn't with that dress. And if you're going for a much more simple look, then yeah. And she's like trying to figure out what this dress needs. And she steps outside the door to ask for something. And there's a belt hanging there, a wide, deep brown, I think, or black belt. And she sort of looks at it and is like, interesting. And grabs it and tries it on. And it just happens to, of course, be like the size that she needs and everything. And we see Villanelle in the background watching her trying this on. And Eve sort of stands there and is like, oh, there it is. And decides that she's going to buy this outfit. And Villanelle looks extremely gratified that Eve liked the thing that she put out there for her to get. I have no idea what to think other than this is just like interesting to her. What a wacky little scene. I loved this. Like, why? And is there going to be any sort of indicator to Eve later that Villanelle was there with her this whole time? Like, will she ever know that that was left for her by the person that she is chasing? Because that would fuck me up. I don't know about you guys, but that would fuck my ass up. It would torment me knowing that I had been like 10, 15 feet away from a person who had killed a room full of people the last time I met them in a public place. And I was as vulnerable as to be naked behind a fucking hanging curtain. Like, I feel like I'd have nightmares about that. So we have then the video chat with Nico and all of their friends that are over for dinner, whom she forgot about, and her kind of like lying to Nico. I love the fact when she calls him, she like walks away to take care of some stuff as it's dialing. And when he finally appears on screen, she's not even sitting there waiting for him. It's just such a perfect little like detail, but that really gets across how little she gives a shit about him, to be perfectly honest, you know? And this is when he shows her all of their friends sitting there for dinner and her just being like, oh my God, what the fuck? I totally forgot about this. So she gets ready for this evening out with Bill. There's a vibe to Nico's questions about what that dress is that's hanging up back there. Is that Bill at the door knocking right now? Are you dressing up to go out to dinner with Bill? That really makes it feel like he suspects she might be having an affair with him. And she has like a talk about it later because Bill's like, you know, she says something about how Nico's being weird. I think he's jealous, which I kind of like, but which is also annoying, which, excuse me, which sums that up pretty well. A partner who isn't threatened at all is like, it could either be that they're just very confident, or it could be that they're complacent and they don't really give a shit. It's one of those things where you just, you have to figure it out. But also, if somebody's too jealous and you feel like you have to justify everything or minimize things to make them feel better, that's really tiring. And this is when we find out about what was going on with Bill, with his partner and his child. And yeah, she says something like, tell me what happened in Charlottenburg. And he says, everything happened. And she says, men? And he says, yeah. And she says, were you gay? And he says, I just fall in love with whoever I fall in love with. And she says, how many men have you been in love with? And he says, hundreds. And when she says, does Kiko know? He says, she's got her own thing going on. So yeah, completely changing her understanding of who Bill is in this moment. And then she heads out to her date. This conversation is really fucking frustrating. And as she's heading out, we have Villanelle following her and making it really, really obvious. Now, how many of you knew from the moment this started that Villanelle was setting her up? Like, you have to know, right? Villanelle has been watching Eve for days, and Eve has been around Bill for days. So you have to know that Villanelle knows what Bill looks like and knows exactly what the fuck just happened. So yeah, Eve's heading out on this date, unaware that Bill has like stopped Villanelle, and he does it in like a sort of he thinks he's being really subtle sort of way. And Bill, as much as I appreciate what you're doing here, you are almost insulting Villanelle because you're acting like she isn't going to know. She's been following Eve and is following her right now, and you were literally just standing next to Eve talking to her on the platform. You don't think she's going to put it together that you know who she is, or at least like are keeping an eye on her? Like, even if he isn't aware that Villanelle has been following Eve for the past several days and would have put together who he is based on that, in this moment, he was standing next to Eve talking to her. Like, this should be enough for him to realize that he is not anonymous enough to step in and say anything to her. But he does it anyway. And Villanelle plays it like she has no idea who he is or whatever. She's about to get on the train. She does a really good job of pretending that she was about to step on after Eve and how upset and disappointed she is that he stopped her and now she's missing the train. Villanelle is really good at like mimicking being a person. And every time we watch her do it, it tempts me more and more to believe that she is. And then I'm like, oh no, she's not. She's not a person. This is like there's like a creature in there, you know? So this leads to him following her, and this like long sequence of him really thinking that she doesn't know he's right behind her. And the most telling moment for me was when he's trying to cross the street following her, and there is a bus that passes between the two of them. And then after the bus finishes passing, Villanelle is still standing there, slowed down to almost a crawl, waiting for him to catch up with her. She is ensuring he is able to follow her, and Bill doesn't see it. It's so frustrating to watch, you guys. Like, there are so many alarm bells that should be going off for him that just aren't, because he really thinks that she doesn't know who he is. It's, again, insulting. It's insulting. Somebody asked a question. Do we know how much field experience Eve and Bill have? Asked Anya's. We don't really. Eve said something earlier about how going to Berlin is meant to be, like, getting on this job in general. It was supposed to be a way to get back in the field. Like, both him and Eve missed doing that. But it is not clear how much they've done it, and if it's just like, oh, I did it a ton and I miss it so much, or if it's I did some of it, really liked it, and was not given much of an opportunity to do more, and I want more. I don't know. It could be either one. Anya says Villanelle looked really good in her outfit and hairdo. Yeah, I really love her braids like this. I used to wear my hair like this a lot. So yeah, she's walking and you can see her like glance over her shoulder finally at Bill, making it clear that she knows that he's behind her. And then she goes into this nightclub, and it's amazing. He's like following behind her. And he's like the crowd. It's just an enormous club. I don't think I've ever been to a nightclub this size. And he is following her, and at one point she like looks up and everything sort of slows down. It's really, guys, the way this is done is incredible, because it all happens like as Eve is herself trying to push through this crowd. So yeah, we see Villanelle walking away from Bill pursuing her, really thinking that he's fucking doing something here. Then she is under like a spotlight, and she turns and gives him a real good view of her face. And he's smiling to himself, feeling like, yes, I've got her. And then she looks at him and smiles directly at him. And he fucking realizes, and she starts to come back at him. And now he's like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. And he's starting to try and get back through the crowd and get outside to run, which, too late, buddy. Oh my God. She knows who you are. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? Like, you know, oh my God, it fucking killed me. So she, of course, manages to catch up to him, because they're in like a crowd of fucking people pressed up against each other. And she has this knife. It's like maybe 3 inches long. Can I just say how shocking it is to me to find out how small a knife you need to be able to kill somebody? I mean, if you told me that somebody was killed with a 3-inch long knife, I wouldn't not believe you, but I'd be like, really? And I can't help but wonder, like, for me, I have giant tits. If you had a 3-inch knife, could you even get it to, like, into my sternum? You'd have to go up and like try and go down into my heart, because I don't feel like that 3 inches is even getting past these boobs at all. Like, I can just imagine somebody like listening to this, planning to stab me to death, and being like, oh, fine, God, I have to get a different knife to stab Natasha with. She's a real size queen. But yeah, she comes up, stabs him in the chest like multiple times. It's like she probably did like a good 15, 20 stabs, I feel like. And poor Bill, like, watching him trying to fight back, it's awful to watch. Like, this is a dude who did not want to die, is not trying to be brave, isn't, you know, attempting to like take her out. He just doesn't want to die. You know, it's as simple as that. And it's awful. And the crowd is so close that she can like lean him up against somebody who's dancing near him. And he stays upright for a good 30 seconds before he starts to collapse to the ground. And she bails. And guys, the way this is staged is so good. Eve is coming up behind him and she sees his hat and she recognizes him and thinks that he's okay. And then he begins to slump. And the guy who he's leaned up against begins to like let him fall to the ground. And she sees the blood and realizes what's going on. And she starts to absolutely lose her shit. And nobody will let her through the crowd. This is a fucking literal nightmare. Nightmare scenario. Watching somebody that you care about die and slide to the floor. And you are being held back and unable to get to them. And like her acting in this moment, you guys. And her trying to get through is just, guys, it's awful. And he's like finally on the ground. And it seems like people are just beginning to realize something happened because like it's so crowded in there. It takes a minute for it to register with anybody. And then that's it. Cut your credits. Cut your credits. Cut your credits from that. What the fuck? Jesus Christ. So yeah. So a really good episode, y'all. And I like low-key knew Bill was going to have to die. I figured that was going to happen eventually. But I just never thought it'd happen this soon. Episode 3, you know, Jesus. It's like he's almost like been fridged, except he's made into much more of a full character beforehand. It would really have to be a romantic relationship for it to be fridging. So I guess Nico has to die. But yeah, guys, I am just blown away. So I really, really like this episode. I am dying to watch the next one. Thank you very, very much to Julia for commissioning the next one, or for commissioning this one, and to Melanie for kind of commissioning the next one. I hope y'all are enjoying the coverage, and I will see you soon with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.